My husband has been cheating with our teenage babysitter who's now 3 months pregnant to expose him before he manipulates her into silence. I'm Melissa, 34 years old, mother of 2, and apparently the world's biggest idiot. I found out 3 days ago. 3 days of pretending everything was normal while my insides twisted into knots. 3 days of watching my husband Derek kiss our kids goodnight, knowing what I knew. 3 days of looking at our babysitter Amber's Facebook profile picture over and over again, searching her 17-year-old face for answers I'd never find there. The thing is, I wasn't supposed to know yet. Amber told her best friend Kayla. Kayla told her older sister Morgan. And Morgan happens to work at the coffee shop I go to every Tuesday morning. Morgan pulled me aside yesterday. Her hands were shaking. "Mrs. Patterson, I need to tell you something. You're going to hate me for this, but if I don't say anything, I'll hate myself more." That's how it started, with Morgan's trembling voice in the back room of a coffee shop that smelled like burnt espresso, and my entire life falling apart. Derek, my Derek, the man who cried at our wedding, who held my hand through 2 difficult pregnancies, who still left me notes in my lunch bag sometimes, and Amber, sweet Amber, who we'd known since she was 14, who started babysitting for us when she turned 16, who my daughter Lily adored, who Derek picked up and drove home every time she watched our kids because it was the responsible thing to do. I didn't go home right away. I sat in my car in the coffee shop parking lot for 2 hours, trying to breathe, trying to think. My phone kept buzzing with texts from Derek asking where I was, if I'd picked up his dry cleaning, normal mundane husband things that now felt like sandpaper against my skin. I needed proof. That's what I decided. Because maybe Morgan was wrong. Maybe it was a misunderstanding. Maybe Amber was pregnant, but it wasn't Derek's baby and somehow the story got twisted. But I knew. In that sick, hollow way you know things before your brain catches up. I knew. So I went home. I kissed Derek hello. I asked him about his day. And then I told him I was going to book club that night and wouldn't be back until late. I didn't have a book club. Instead, I went to Amber's house. She lived 3 streets over with her mom, Rebecca. I'd met Rebecca dozens of times. We'd chatted at school events, exchanged pleasantries when I dropped Amber off. She seemed nice, normal, like someone whose daughter wasn't sleeping with my husband. I parked down the block and waited. At 7:30, Rebecca left. I watched her car disappear around the corner, and then I walked up to the front door. Amber answered on the second knock. She was wearing pajama shorts and an oversized hoodie. When she saw me, all the color drained from her face. "Mrs. Patterson, hi. We weren't expecting. Can I come in?" My voice sounded calm, weirdly calm. She stepped back. "Let me inside." The house smelled like microwave popcorn. We stood in the hallway. Neither of us sat down. This wasn't that kind of conversation. "I know," I said. Her eyes filled with tears immediately. "Mrs. Patterson, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I never meant for any of this to." "How long?" She wiped her eyes. 6 months. It started 6 months ago. 6 months. I did the math in my head. That was right after we got back from our family vacation to Maine. The trip where Derek seemed distracted, where he kept checking his phone and smiling at texts he wouldn't show me. "The baby is his?" She nodded, started crying harder. "I wanted to tell you so many times, but he said we had to be careful, that we needed to wait for the right moment, that he was going to leave you but he needed to do it the right way so he wouldn't lose the kids. The right way. As if there was a right way to blow up your family. Does your mom know?" "No. Nobody knows except Kayla and Derek. And now you." She wrapped her arms around herself. She looked so young, because she was young. 17. Still in high school. Still had pictures from prom on her Instagram. I felt sick. "What does he want you to do?" I asked. "About the baby." She hesitated. "He wants me to not have it. He said we can't have it right now because of the timing, that we need to wait until after the divorce, that we can have kids together later, when things are settled." And there it was. Derek wasn't leaving me for her. He was trying to make the problem disappear. "Amber, look at me." I waited until she met my eyes. "He's not gonna leave me. He's never planning to leave me. He's going to convince you to get rid of this baby, and then he's going to ghost you. Do you understand that?" "No." She shook her head. "No, he loves me. He tells me he loves me. We have plans. We're going to—" "You're 17 years old. He's 41. He has a wife and 2 kids and a mortgage and a reputation. What exactly do you think those plans look like?" She was sobbing now, full body sobs. Part of me wanted to comfort her. She was just a kid. But the other part of me, the bigger part, wanted to shake her and scream. I didn't do either. "I'm going to ask you something," I said, "and I need you to really think about your answer." She nodded, wiping her face with her sleeve. "Do you want to keep this baby?" She stared at me. Yes. I think so. I mean, I'm scared. But yes. Then keep it. Don't let him pressure you into doing something you'll regret. Whatever happens next, whatever I do, you make your own choice about this. Okay?" She whispered. I left, went back to my car, sat there in the dark trying to figure out what came next. I couldn't go to Derek. Not yet. He'd lie. He'd manipulate. He'd turn it around somehow and make me question my own reality. I'd seen him do it before with smaller things. Missing money from our account. Suspicious text messages. He was good at making me feel crazy. I needed something he couldn't talk his way out of. So I went home, acted normal, put the kids to bed while Derek watched football in the living room. Then I took a shower and crawled into bed next to my husband and pretended to sleep. At 2 a.m., I snuck into his office. Derek kept everything on his laptop. I knew his password. It was Lily's birthday plus our anniversary year. Not exactly Fort Knox. I sat down in his chair, opened his computer, and started searching. The emails were archived in a folder labeled Client Files Anderson. Clever. Boring enough that I'd never click on it. But there they were. Hundreds of them. Starting 7 months ago. "Hey beautiful. Can't stop thinking about last night. You make me feel alive again." I wanted to throw up, but I kept kept reading. There were photos too. Amber in lingerie. Amber smiling at the camera in what I recognized as a hotel room. Amber with her hand on her still flat stomach, captioned "Our little secret." And then I found the recent ones, from 2 weeks ago. Derek, we need to talk about options. Amber, what kind of options? Derek, I looked into clinics. There's one 2 towns over. I can drive you there on Saturday. Your mom won't have to know. Amber, I don't know if I want to do this. Derek, baby, we've talked about this. It's the only way. Once this is handled, we can be together. I'll tell Melissa everything, but not while you're pregnant. It's too complicated. Amber, you said that a month ago, and 2 months ago. When are you actually going to tell her? Derek, soon. I promise. But you need to trust me. This is what's best for everyone. Amber, what about what I want? A long pause. Derek, what you want? You're 17 years old. You don't know what you want. You think you do, but you don't. I'm the adult here. I'm making the responsible decision. Amber, I'm keeping it. I've decided. Derek, no, you're not. You're going to that clinic on Tuesday, and you're going to do what needs to be done. Because if you don't, if you keep this baby, I will deny everything. I will tell everyone you seduced me, that you've been obsessed with me for years, that you're lying about the baby being mine. Your reputation will be destroyed. No one will believe a word you say. I screenshot everything, sent it to my email, to my phone, to a cloud storage account Derek didn't know I had, but I kept digging, because if I was going to do this, I needed everything. I found more. Bank statements showing cash withdrawals I didn't know about, hotel receipts, charges to jewelry stores I'd never received gifts from. He'd bought her a necklace for her 17th birthday, $200, while telling me we needed to cut back on expenses. I found text messages he'd deleted from his phone but not from his laptop backup. Messages from other numbers I didn't recognize. Women I didn't know. This wasn't just about Amber. This was a pattern. How many others had there been? How many times had I believed his lies? I kept searching until almost 4 a.m. By the time I was done, I had enough evidence to bury him. Derek was still asleep when I crawled back into bed. The next morning, I called in sick to work. Told Derek I had a stomach bug. He kissed my forehead, told me to rest, and left for his office downtown. As soon as his car pulled out of the driveway, I was on the phone. I need you to come over, I said to my sister Jennifer. Right now. She heard something in my voice. Didn't ask questions, just said she'd be there in 20 minutes. When she arrived, I showed her everything. The emails, the photos, the text messages, the financial records showing money spent on hotels and gifts. She sat on my couch with her hand over her mouth, crying. That son of a... She stopped herself. Looked at me. What are you going to do? I don't know yet, but I need you to help me figure it out. We spent the next 3 hours planning. Jennifer was a paralegal. She knew things. She made phone calls to lawyers she'd worked with. Got me consultations scheduled for later that week. Helped me start documenting everything. Our assets, our accounts, Derek's income. You need to open a bank account in just your name, she said. Start moving money. Not a lot. Just enough to cover a lawyer and living expenses for a few months. Do it slowly so he doesn't notice. Isn't that illegal? No. It's community property. You have every right to access it. You're just making sure you have resources when things get ugly, and they will get ugly. She was right. Over the next week, I moved small amounts of money into a new account. 500 here, 1,000 there. Nothing that would trigger alerts. I met with 3 lawyers, chose the best one. Her name was Victoria Chen. She was expensive, but she had a reputation for winning. This is going to be a fight, Victoria told me. Your husband will hire someone just as good, maybe better. You need to be prepared for him to get nasty. I'm prepared, but here's the thing. I didn't just want a divorce. I wanted Derek to face consequences. Real ones. Because Amber was 17, and in our state, that made Derek a criminal. The age of consent was 18. Derek knew that. He'd mentioned it once, years ago, when there was some case on the news. He'd been disgusted by it. Called the guy a predator. Said men like that deserve to be locked up. And now he was that man. I called the police that afternoon. The officer who took my statement was a woman named Detective Richards. She was probably in her 50s, with kind eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor. She listened to everything without interrupting, took notes, asked clarifying questions. This is going to be difficult, she told me when I finished. These cases always are. The victim is often reluctant to cooperate. They think they're in love. They don't see themselves as victims. I know, I said. But she's pregnant, and he's pressuring her to terminate. She told me that herself. Detective Richards nodded. We'll need to talk to Amber. Get her statement, and we'll need the evidence you've collected. I gave her everything. The screenshots, the emails, the timeline. What happens now? I asked. We investigate. We build a case, and then we decide whether to press charges. How long does that take? Could be weeks. Could be months. These things don't move quickly. I didn't have months. Amber was already 3 months pregnant. Derek was already pressuring her. Every day that passed was another day he could convince her to do something she didn't want to do. I need to speed this up, I said. Detective Richards looked at me carefully. Mrs. Patterson, I understand you're angry, but you need to let us do our job. Don't do anything that could jeopardize the investigation. I nodded, smiled, lied. Of course, I understand, but I had no intention of waiting. That night at dinner, I played the perfect wife. I asked Derek about his day, laughed at his jokes, refilled his wine glass. I was thinking, I said, cutting into my chicken. We should have Amber babysit this weekend. It's been a while. I think Lily misses her. Derek nearly choked on his water. Amber? I don't think that's a good idea. Why not? I heard she's been busy with school stuff. Probably doesn't have time. I'll text her and ask. I pulled out my phone. Melissa, don't. His voice was sharp. Too sharp. I looked at him. Is there a reason you don't want Amber to babysit anymore? He forced a smile. No, of course not. I just don't want you to be disappointed if she's busy. I'll risk it. I sent the text right there at the table. Derek watched me do it. His jaw tight. Amber responded within 5 minutes. I'd love to. What time Saturday? I showed Derek the screen. See? She's available. He didn't say anything, just stared at his plate. The rest of dinner was silent. Derek excused himself early, said he had work to do in his office. I heard him on the phone. His voice was low, angry. I couldn't make out the words, but I knew he was talking to Amber. After the kids went to bed, I knocked on his office door. Everything okay? I asked. You seemed stressed at dinner. Fine. Just work stuff. You sure? You've been distant lately. He looked up at me. For a moment, I thought he might confess. Might tell me everything. But he didn't. I'm fine, Mel. Just tired. Big project at work. I nodded, closed the door, went to our bedroom and cried into my pillow so the kids wouldn't hear. Saturday came. I told Derek I had made plans with Jennifer. A girls' day. Shopping and lunch. He seemed relieved that I'd be out of the house. Amber arrived at noon. She looked nervous. Kept glancing at Derek. Lily's so excited you're here, I said, hugging her. Then I whispered in her ear. We need to talk later. It's important. She nodded. I left. But I didn't go meet Jennifer. Instead, I parked 2 streets over and waited. At 12:30, I texted Amber. Is he still there? Yes, she replied. He sent the kids to play in the backyard. He wants to talk. Record it. I texted back. Turn on your voice memo app and put your phone in your pocket. Don't let him see. 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Appeared again. Okay, she finally sent. I waited. Every minute felt like an hour. I kept checking my phone, imagining what was happening in my house. At 1:15, my phone rang. It was Amber, Mrs. Patterson. Her voice was shaking. You need to come back. Now. I was there in 3 minutes. When I walked in, Amber was crying in the kitchen. Derek was nowhere to be seen. What happened? Where is he? She handed me her phone. The voice memo app was still recording. She pressed stop, then play. Derek's voice filled the kitchen, so I made an appointment. Tuesday at 3. The clinic is 2 hours away, so we need to leave by 1. Derek, I don't want to do this. Amber, baby, we've talked about this. It's the only way. Once this is handled, we can be together. I'll tell Melissa everything, but not while you're pregnant. It's too complicated. You said that a month ago, and 2 months ago. When are you actually going to tell her? Soon, I promise. But you need to trust me. This is what's best for everyone. What about what I want? A long pause. What you want. Derek's voice changed, became cold. You're 17 years old. You don't know what you want. You think you do, but you don't. I'm the adult here. I'm making the responsible decision. I'm keeping it. I've decided. No, you're not. His voice was hard now. Scary. You're going to that clinic on Tuesday, and you're going to do what needs to be done. Because if you don't, if you keep this baby, I will deny everything. I will tell everyone you seduced me, that you've been obsessed with me for years, that you're lying about the baby being mine. Your reputation will be destroyed. No one will believe a word you say. Amber was sobbing on the recording. You said you loved me. I do love you. That's why I'm protecting you from yourself. This is for your own good, Amber. Trust me. The recording ended there. I looked at Amber. She was pale, shaking. Where is he? I asked. He left. When you texted that you were coming back, he said he had to go. Told me to keep my mouth shut or he'd make sure I regretted it. I sat down at the kitchen table. My hands were shaking. I'm going to call the police, I said. Right now. Are you ready for that? Amber nodded. I can't do this anymore. I can't keep lying. I can't keep pretending this is normal. I grabbed my phone and called Detective Richards. I have him, I said when she answered. I have him on recording. She arrived within 30 minutes. Brought another officer with her. A younger man who introduced himself as Officer Martinez. They sat with us in my living room. Listened to the recording 3 times. Took Amber's statement. Took my statement too. Detective Richards was writing everything down when she looked up at Amber. I need to ask you some difficult questions, she said gently. About the relationship. About what happened. I know it's hard, but we need details. Amber nodded. Took a deep breath. When did it start? Detective Richards asked. July 15th. I remember because it was my birthday. I turned 17. Had there been inappropriate contact before that? He'd been flirty for a few months. Complimenting me. Texting me things that seemed innocent but also kind of weird. Like you look beautiful today. Or I can't stop thinking about our conversation. Did you tell anyone? No. I thought I was imagining it. He was Mrs. Patterson's husband. A dad. I didn't think he'd actually, what happened on July 15th. Amber's voice got quieter. He said he needed to talk to me about something important. Asked if I could meet him. I thought it was about babysitting. But he took me to a hotel. Said he couldn't keep his feelings hidden anymore. That he'd been in love with me for months. That his marriage was over and he was just waiting for the right time to leave. What did you say? I said I didn't know. That it felt wrong. But he kept saying all these things. That I was mature for my age. That I made him feel alive. That we were meant to be together. And I wanted to believe him. He was the successful, attractive man who was paying attention to me. It made me feel special. My heart was breaking listening to her. She'd been manipulated, groomed, and she'd had no idea. Detective Richards asked more questions. How many times they'd been together, where they'd gone, whether anyone else knew. Then she turned to me. Mrs. Patterson, what made you suspect the affair? I explained about Morgan, about the emails I'd found, about the pattern of behavior I'd started noticing. When we were done, Detective Richards closed her notebook. This is coercion, she said, threatening a minor to force her to terminate a pregnancy. Combined with the statutory rape evidence you've provided, we have more than enough for an arrest warrant. How long? I asked. We can have him picked up tonight. I looked at the clock. It was almost 2 2:30. He'll be home around 6, I said. You can arrest him here, in front of our house, in front of the neighbors, in front of everyone who thought he was such a great guy. Detective Richards nodded. We'll be ready. After the police left, I sat with Amber for a while. What happens now? She asked. Now you go home. You tell your mom everything, and you let the police do their job? My mom is going to be so angry. She might be angry at first, but she'll come around. You're her daughter. She loves you. Amber left around 3. I was alone in the house. I called Jennifer. Can you pick up the kids from school? I asked. Take them to your place for the night? What's happening? They're arresting Derek. Tonight. I don't want the kids to see it. Jennifer was silent for a moment. Oh my god. Okay. Yeah, I'll get them. Should I tell them anything? Tell them they're having a sleepover. That's it. Melissa, are you okay? I will be. I hung up, looked around the house. This was the last day things would be normal. Well, not normal, but the same. After tonight, everything would change. I sent Lily and Marcus to Jennifer's house with their overnight bags. Told them I had a special dinner planned with their dad, and they got to have fun with their cousins. They were excited. Didn't ask questions. At 5:45, I stood in my living room and waited. At 5:58, Derek's car pulled into the driveway. At 6:03, 2 police cars arrived. I watched from the window as Derek got out of his car, confused. Watched as the officers approached him. Watched as they told him he was under arrest for statutory rape and coercion of a minor. His face went white. He looked at the house, saw me standing in the window. Our eyes met. For a moment I saw real fear in his face. Not the calculated fear of someone caught in a lie. The genuine fear of someone realizing their world was ending. I didn't wave, didn't smile, just stared at him as they put him in handcuffs and read him his rights. The neighbors came out to watch. Mrs. Chen from next door with her mouth hanging open. The college kids who rented the house across the street filming on their phones. The Johnsons with their perfectly manicured lawn, whispering to each other. Everyone saw. Derek was shouting now, saying it was a misunderstanding, that his wife was crazy, that he hadn't done anything wrong. Melissa, tell them this is insane. I didn't move, didn't respond. They put him in the police car anyway. As they drove away, I finally moved from the window, sat down on the couch, started shaking. My phone started ringing immediately. Numbers I didn't recognize. Probably neighbors wanting to know what was happening. I didn't answer any of them. Instead, I poured myself a glass of wine, the expensive stuff Derek saved for special occasions. I sat on the back porch and watched the sun set and thought about what came next. The divorce, the trial, telling my kids that their father wasn't coming home, rebuilding a life I thought I had secure. It was terrifying, but it was also freeing. My phone rang again. This time it was Amber. Is it true? She asked. Did they really arrest him? Yes. She was quiet for a moment. My mom knows now. I told her everything. She's really upset, but she says she's going to support me, whatever I decide about the baby. That's good. That's really good. Thank you for believing me, for helping me. You could have blamed me, could have been angry at me. You're 17, Amber. He's a 41-year-old man. There's only one person to blame here. We talked for a few more minutes. She told me Rebecca had already called a lawyer, that they were going to make sure she had options. After we hung up, I sat in the silence of my empty house. This was my life now. Single mom, married to a criminal, soon to be divorced. I didn't sleep that night, just lay in bed staring at the ceiling, replaying everything in my head. The next morning, Derek's mother called me, screaming, "What have you done? You've destroyed him. Over what? Over nothing. You're vindictive and cruel, and I hope you're happy. Is that all?" I asked calmly. That girl is lying. She seduced him. She's been obsessed with him for years, and now she's trying to ruin his life. She's 17 years old. She was 16 when it started. Your son is a predator. How dare you? I hung up on her, blocked her number. Derek's lawyer called next, a man named Robert Brennan, who I knew had a reputation for defending wealthy men accused of bad things. "Mrs. Patterson, I'm representing your husband. He'd like to speak with you, to explain, to try to work this out." Work it out? He maintains his innocence. He believes there's been a misunderstanding. If you could just give me your email. I'm sorry? Your email address. I'm going to send you the name and number of my attorney. All future communication goes through her. I hung up before he could respond. Then Jennifer showed up with coffee and bagels and a plan. "We're changing the locks today," she said. "And tomorrow we're opening a new bank account in just your name. And then we're getting you the best divorce attorney in the state. I already have one. Victoria Chen." Jennifer's eyes widened. Victoria Chen. She's expensive. Derek can afford it. His assets are about to become community property. And given what he's done, I'm guessing I'll get a pretty favorable settlement. She was right. By the end of the week, I had changed the locks, opened new accounts, started the process of separating my life from Derek's. Victoria filed for divorce on Monday. Emergency custody of the children. Restraining order. Temporary support. Derek's lawyer fought it all. Said I was being vindictive. That I was using the arrest to gain an unfair advantage. But the judge wasn't buying it. Mr. Patterson is currently in jail awaiting arraignment on serious charges involving a minor. The judge said. Mrs. Patterson is currently in jail awaiting arraignment on serious charges involving a minor. The judge said. Mrs. Patterson's request for full custody is not only reasonable, it's prudent. Derek made bail 2 days later. His parents posted it. $50,000. He wasn't allowed to contact me or Amber or come within 500 feet of our house. He tried anyway. The first time was a text from a new number. "Melissa, please. We need to talk. This is all a huge misunderstanding." I forwarded it to Detective Richards and blocked the number. The second time was an email. Long, rambling, claiming that Amber had pursued him, that he'd tried to resist but she wouldn't leave him alone, that yes, he'd made a mistake, but it wasn't what it looked like. I forwarded that to Detective Richards too. The third time was a letter delivered to the house. notes, handwritten, begging me to reconsider, to think about the kids, to remember the life we'd built together. I gave that one to Victoria. He's violating the restraining order, she said. Each contact is a separate violation. Good. Let him dig his own grave. The story broke in the local news 2 weeks later. Local business owner arrested for statutory rape. They used Derek's professional headshot, the one where he's smiling in his expensive suit, looking respectable and trustworthy. The comment section was brutal. Some people defended him, said there must be more to the story, that Derek Patterson would never do something like that. But most didn't. Most saw it for what it was. Disgusting. I hope he rots in prison. That poor girl. His poor wife. Derek lost his job within days. The company didn't want the publicity. Couldn't risk being associated with someone accused of what he was accused of. His business partner, a man named Tom who I'd known for years, called me. Melissa, I'm so sorry. I had no idea. If I'd known, I would've. It's not your fault. Still, if there's anything I can do, anything you need, for what it's worth, we're removing him from the company. He'll get his share of the business, but he won't be involved in operations anymore. Thank you for telling me. Derek's friends stopped calling. His golf buddies made excuses. The men he'd spent every Sunday watching football with suddenly had other plans. He was alone. Meanwhile, I was drowning in support. Friends I hadn't talked to in years reached out. Neighbors brought over casseroles. Jennifer was at my house almost every day. The hardest part was telling the kids. I waited a week, let them settle into their new routine. Then I sat them down. Marcus was only 6. He didn't really understand. Daddy did something bad, he asked. Yes, something very bad. Is he in timeout? I almost laughed. If only it were that simple. Something like that. He's going to be away for a while. When is he coming back? Old enough to know something was seriously wrong. Old enough to read the news on her iPad even though I'd tried to hide it from her. She cornered me that night after Marcus went to bed. Why did the police take Daddy? I'd been dreading this question, preparing for it. But nothing really prepares you. Daddy made some bad choices, I said carefully. He did things that hurt people. And when adults do that, sometimes they have to face consequences. What kind of bad choices? The kind I'll explain more when you're older. Right now, I just need you to know that none of this is your fault. Daddy loves you very much. And so do I. But things are going to be different for a while. Her eyes filled with tears. Are you and Daddy getting divorced? Yes. Because of what he did? Yes. She was quiet for a long time. Then she said, good. That surprised me. Good. I heard you crying at night. For months. I heard you and Daddy fighting. I didn't know what it was about, but I knew something was wrong, and I was scared. So if him being gone means you stop crying, then good. I pulled her close, held her while she cried, while I cried. I'm sorry you had to hear that. I said, I'm sorry you've been scared. It's not your fault, Mom. It's Daddy's. The court ordered psychological evaluations for both of us to determine fitness for custody. I sat in a sterile office for 3 hours, answering questions about my childhood, my marriage, my mental health. The psychologist was neutral, clinical, took notes without expression. Tell me about your relationship with your husband. Which part? The part where I thought we were happy, or the part where I found out he'd been lying to me for months? Both. I talked about meeting Derek in college, about our wedding, about the early years when everything seemed perfect. When did things start to change? The psychologist asked. I don't know. Looking back, there were signs I missed, or ignored. He'd stay late at work, be secretive about his phone, get defensive when I asked questions. I told myself I was being paranoid. Do you blame yourself for what happened? Sometimes. I wonder if I'd been a better wife. Maybe he wouldn't have. I stopped, but that's not fair. That's what he'd want me to think. The truth is, he made choices. I didn't make him have an affair with a teenager. The psychologist nodded, wrote something down. Derek had his evaluation the next week. I wasn't there, but Victoria told me he cried, played the victim, said he'd made a mistake, but didn't deserve to have his life destroyed. The psychologist's report came back 2 weeks later. It recommended I retain primary custody, said Derek showed signs of narcissistic personality traits and poor impulse control, that he lacked insight into his own behavior and tended to blame others for his mistakes. I felt vindicated and sad, because this was the man I'd married, the man I'd built a life with, and I'd never really seen him clearly until now. The divorce moved forward. Derek's lawyer tried to paint me as vengeful, as someone using the legal system to punish her husband for an affair. Victoria shut that down fast. Mr. Patterson had a physical relationship with a minor, she said in court. This isn't about punishing him for an affair. This is about protecting Mrs. Patterson and her children from a man who has shown extremely poor judgment and a pattern of deceptive behavior. The judge agreed. I got the house, primary custody, more than half of our assets. Derek got supervised visitation with the kids once a month and a court order to pay child support and alimony. His lawyer tried to argue the amounts were too high, that Derek had lost his job and couldn't afford it. Your client should have thought about that before engaging in criminal behavior, the judge said. The criminal trial was scheduled for November, 8 months away. In the meantime, life continued in a strange new normal. I went back to work. My boss had been understanding about everything, gave me flexible hours, let me work from home when I needed to. The kids started therapy. A woman named Dr. Patricia Reeves, who specialized in children of divorce. Marcus went once a week, played with toys while Dr. Reeves asked gentle questions about his feelings. Lily went once a week too. She was more resistant at first, didn't want to talk to a stranger about her family, but Dr. Reeves was patient. Eventually, Lily opened up, talked about feeling angry, confused, embarrassed. All my friends know, Lily told me one night. They saw it on the news, they ask me questions, and I don't know what to say. What do you want want to say my dad is a terrible person, that I hate him. But he's still my dad and I'm not supposed to hate him. You're allowed to feel however you feel. Anger, hate, love, confusion. All of it is okay. She nodded, but I could see she didn't quite believe me. The prosecutor assigned to Derek's case was a woman named Linda Harrison. She called me in for a meeting 3 weeks before the trial. I want you to be prepared, she said. Derek's lawyer is going to put Amber on trial. They're going to question her clothing choices, her social media posts, her past relationships. They're going to try to make the jury believe she knew exactly what she was doing. She was 16. I know. And we're going to hammer that point home. But juries can be unpredictable, especially in cases like this where the defendant is well-liked in the community. Derek's not well-liked anymore. Everyone knows what he did. Everyone knows what he's accused of doing. Until a jury convicts him, he's innocent in the eyes of the law. She walked me through what to expect, how long the trial would last, whether I'd need to testify. I might call you as a character witness, Linda said, to talk about Derek's relationship with Amber, what you observed, how he behaved around her. I never noticed anything inappropriate. That's actually helpful. It shows how careful he was, how he hid it even from you. The trial started on a cold November morning. I sat in the courtroom with Jennifer on one side and Rebecca, Amber's mom, on the other. Rebecca and I had become unlikely allies in all of this, united by our shared anger at Derek, our shared desire to protect Amber. Thank you for being here, Rebecca said as we waited for the trial to start. Amber was nervous about seeing him again. Is she ready? As ready as she'll ever be. Derek sat at the defense table in an expensive suit. His hair was cut. He looked respectable, trustworthy, like someone who definitely didn't have an affair with a teenager. The jury filed in. 8 women, 4 men, a mix of ages and backgrounds. I studied their faces, tried to guess what they were thinking. The prosecution went first. Linda Harrison stood up and addressed the jury. This case is about power and manipulation, she began. About a 41-year-old man who used his position of authority to groom and take advantage of a teenage girl. A girl who babysat his children. A girl who trusted him. A girl who was 16 years old when this began. She laid out the timeline, the emails, the text messages, the photos, the recording of Derek threatening Amber. The jury listened. Some took notes. Others just stared at Derek with expressions of disgust. Then Amber took the stand. She was visibly pregnant now, 6 months along, wearing a simple blue dress that her mom had bought for the trial. Linda walked her through everything. How she'd started babysitting for the Pattersons. How Derek had been friendly at first. How he'd started complimenting her, texting her, offering to drive her home even when I was available to do it. When did it become physical? Linda asked. Amber's voice was quiet. July 15th. Last year, my 17th birthday. Tell us what happened that day. He texted me that morning. Said happy birthday. Asked if I had plans. I said not really. Just dinner with my mom later. He said he wanted to give me a present. Asked if I could meet him. Did you think that was strange? A little, but I thought maybe he and Mrs. Patterson had gotten me a birthday gift. It didn't seem weird at the time. What happened when you met him? He picked me up from school. Said we were going somewhere special, but he drove to a hotel. I asked what we were doing there, and he said he couldn't keep his feelings hidden anymore. That he'd been in love with me for months. That his marriage was over, and he was just waiting for the right time to leave. How did you feel? Confused, scared, but also flattered? He was this successful, attractive man who was paying attention to me, telling me I was beautiful and special. I'd never felt that way before. What happened next? Amber's voice got even quieter. We went into the hotel room. He kissed me. I didn't really know what to do. I'd only kissed one boy before, a guy from my class, and it wasn't like this. Derek seemed so confident, like he knew what he was doing, and I just went along with it. Did you have physical relations that day? Yes. Did you want to? She hesitated. I don't know. I didn't say no, but I also didn't really feel like I could say no. He was telling me all these things, that we were meant to be together, that this was special, that I made him feel alive, and I believed him. Linda asked more questions about the pattern that developed. Weekly meetings at hotels, texts and emails Derek sent her, gifts he bought her. He gave me a necklace, Amber said, for my birthday. It was expensive. I wore it all the time. Thought it meant he really cared about me. When did you find out you were pregnant? Late September. I missed my period and felt sick all the time. I took 3 tests to be sure. What was your reaction? I was terrified. I'm 17. I'm still in high school. I don't have a job. But I thought maybe Derek would be happy, that this would make him finally leave Mrs. Patterson, that we could be a real family. What did Derek say when you told him? Amber's eyes filled with tears. He was angry, really angry, said I should have been more careful, that this complicated everything. Then he started looking into clinics where I could, terminate the pregnancy. Yes. Linda played the recording. Derek's voice filled the courtroom, cold and threatening. You're going to that clinic on Tuesday, and you're going to do what needs to be done. Because if you don't, if you keep this baby, I will deny everything. I will tell everyone you seduced me, that you've been obsessed with me for years, that you're lying about the baby being mine. Your reputation will be destroyed. No one will believe a word you say. Several jurors shifted in their seats. One woman shook her head in disgust. Another had tears in her eyes. Derek's lawyer stood up for cross-examination. Robert Brennan was probably in his 60s. Silver hair, expensive suit, the kind of lawyer who specialized in making juries doubt their own judgment. Miss Turner, he said smoothly, you say you were 17 when this relationship started, but you'd already had a boyfriend at that age, correct? Yes. I dated someone from school for a few months, so you weren't inexperienced with romantic relationships. Linda objected. Relevance. I'm establishing that Miss Turner was not as naive as the prosecution would have us believe. The judge allowed it. Robert continued. You pursued Derek, didn't you? You wore revealing clothing around him, flirted with him, made it clear you were interested. No, that's not true. You sent him photos of yourself, provocative photos. He asked me to. I thought that's what people who loved each other did, but you sent them, willingly. No one forced you. I was 16. He was 40. He should have known better. You're avoiding the question. Did anyone force you to send those photos? No, but he asked me to. He said he wanted to see me, that I was beautiful. I thought I was making him happy. Robert smiled, like he'd won something. No further questions. Linda did redirect, asked Amber to explain the power dynamic, how she'd felt unable to refuse Derek's requests, how he'd made her feel like she had to keep him happy, or he'd lose interest. But I could see some of the jurors weren't convinced. They were looking at Amber like she'd made choices, like she bore some responsibility. The prosecution brought in expert witnesses next. A psychologist who specialized in grooming behaviors testified about how predators identify vulnerable targets and gradually break down their boundaries. It's not a sudden thing, she explained. It's a process. First comes friendship, making the victim feel special. Then come small boundary violations, a hand on the shoulder that lasts too long, comments that could be innocent or could be inappropriate, then bigger violations, until eventually the victim has been conditioned to accept things they would have rejected at the beginning. Does this pattern match what you've heard about Mr. Patterson and Miss Turner? Yes, absolutely. Mr. Patterson followed the classic grooming playbook almost perfectly. A pediatrician testified about adolescent brain development, how the prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for judgment and decision-making, isn't fully developed until the mid-20s. A 17-year-old might look like an adult, she said, but neurologically they're not. They're particularly vulnerable to manipulation by authority figures because they lack the experience and brain development to recognize when they're being taken advantage of. The defense brought in their own experts, a psychologist who testified that some teenagers are more mature than others, that chronological age doesn't always match emotional age. They brought in character witnesses, people who'd known Derek for years. His business partner Tom testified that Derek was a good man, a dedicated father, that this was completely out of character. I've known Derek for 15 years, Tom said. He's always been professional, respectful. I never saw any behavior that would suggest he was capable of something like this. His college roommate testified, his former boss, people from his church, all saying the same thing. This wasn't Derek. He'd made a mistake, but he wasn't a predator. Then they called me. I hadn't been planning to testify, but Derek's lawyer had subpoenaed me as a defense witness. I walked to the stand on shaking legs. Robert Brennan smiled at me. Mrs. Patterson, thank you for being here. I didn't respond. You were married to Derek for how long? 12 years. And in those 12 years, did you ever see him behave inappropriately with a minor? No. Did you ever have concerns about his relationship with Amber? No. Not until I found out what was really happening. So from your perspective, their relationship seemed normal? Professional? Yes. He was her employer. I was her employer. It seemed like a normal babysitting arrangement. Did Derek ever mention having feelings for Amber? No. Did he ever say anything negative about your marriage? I paused. We had normal marital issues, arguments about money, about whose turn it was to do dishes, but nothing that seemed serious. So to your knowledge, Derek was a good husband? A good father? I looked at Derek. He was watching me with this hopeful expression, like I might save him. To my knowledge, yes, I said. But I've learned that what I knew was very different from what was actually happening. Robert Brennan tried to get me to say more, to paint Derek in a better light, but I wouldn't. I stuck to facts, things I'd observed, things I'd known. When I stepped down, Derek tried to catch my eye. I looked right through him. The trial lasted 2 weeks total. On the final day, both lawyers gave their closing arguments. Linda Harrison reminded the jury that Amber was a child when this started, that Derek was in a position of power, that he'd used that power to manipulate and control her, that the recordings proved his true character. Robert Brennan tried to paint Derek as a man who'd made a mistake, who'd fallen in love with the wrong person at the wrong time, who deserved a second chance. Is what Derek did wrong? Yes, Brennan said. Is it criminal? That's what you have to decide. Was Amber truly a victim, or was she a willing participant in a relationship that crossed boundaries? The jury deliberated for 6 hours. I sat in the hallway outside the courtroom, Jennifer on one side, Rebecca and Amber on the other. We didn't talk much, just waited. When the bailiff called us back in, my heart was pounding so hard I thought I might pass out. The jury filed in. None of them looked at Derek. That was a good sign, Jennifer whispered. The judge addressed the foreman. On the count of statutory rape, how do you find? Guilty. Amber started crying. Rebecca held her. On the count of coercion of a minor, how do you find? Guilty. Derek's mother let out a sob. His father sat stone-faced. Derek just stared straight ahead, like he couldn't believe this was really happening, like he'd actually thought he'd get away with it. The judge thanked the jury and scheduled sentencing for 3 weeks later. I walked out of the courthouse into cold November air. Reporters were everywhere. Mrs. Patterson, how do you feel about the verdict? Mrs. Patterson, will you reconcile with your husband? Mrs. Patterson, do you have anything to say? I stopped, looked directly at the cameras. I hope this sends a message that men in positions of power can't prey on teenage girls and get away with it, that justice matters, that survivors deserve to be believed. Then I got in my car and drove away. The sentencing hearing was 3 weeks later, right before Thanksgiving. Derek's lawyer brought in letters from friends and family, from Lily and Marcus's teachers who didn't know the full story, from people in the community who thought 4 years was too harsh. The judge read some of them aloud. Derek Patterson is a pillar of this community. opportunity. He made a mistake, but he's not a monster. His children need their father. Then Linda Harrison presented letters from her side, from organizations that work with victims of grooming, from Amber's therapist, from me. I'd spent hours writing that letter, trying to explain what Derek had done, not just to Amber, but to our family, to our kids, to the trust that's supposed to exist between adults and children. The judge read it silently, then looked at Derek. Mr. Patterson, do you have anything to say? Derek stood. He'd lost weight, looked smaller somehow, diminished. Your Honor, I know I made mistakes. I know I hurt people, but I'm not the monster they're making me out to be. I fell in love with someone I shouldn't have fallen in love with. That's all. I'm not a predator. I'm just a man who made bad choices. I have 2 children who need their father, a family that needs me. I'm asking for mercy. The judge stared at him for a long moment. Mr. Patterson, you didn't fall in love. You groomed a child. You used your position of trust and authority to manipulate a 16-year-old girl into a physical relationship. You got her pregnant and then threatened her when she wouldn't do what you wanted. You prioritized your own desires over her well-being, over your wife's well-being, over your children's well-being. Those aren't mistakes. Those are crimes, and they deserve to be punished accordingly. She sentenced him to 4 years, with the possibility of parole after 2 if he showed good behavior and completed treatment programs. Derek's mother screamed. His father had to physically restrain her from rushing the bench. Derek was led away in handcuffs. He looked back at me one more time. I looked away. Outside the courthouse, I stood with Amber and Rebecca. Thank you, Amber said, for everything, for believing me, for fighting for me. You did the hard part, I said. You told the truth. You testified. You were brave. I'm still scared about having the baby, about being a mom at 18. You're going to be fine. You have your mom. You have support, and you're stronger than you think. We hugged, and for the first time since this whole thing started, I felt like maybe everything would actually be okay. The holidays that year were strange. Christmas without Derek, just me and the kids and Jennifer's family. Lily helped me make cookies. Marcus helped decorate the tree. We watched movies and opened presents and pretended everything was normal, but it wasn't normal. Not really. Marcus asked about Derek a few times. When Daddy was coming home, if Daddy would be there for Christmas. I told him Daddy was away, that he'd made bad choices and had to stay where he was. Marcus seemed to accept that. He was young enough that the details didn't matter much. He just knew Daddy wasn't around anymore. Lily didn't ask about him at all. On Christmas night, after the kids were in bed, Jennifer and I sat on the couch drinking wine. How are you really doing? She asked. I don't know. Some days I'm fine. Other days I feel like I'm drowning. That's normal. You've been through trauma. I keep thinking about all the signs I missed, all the times I should have known something was wrong. You can't think like that. Derek was careful. He hid it well. But what if there's something wrong with me? What if I'm the kind of person who attracts men like that? Stop. Derek's behavior is not a reflection on you. He made choices. Bad choices. You were a good wife. A good mother. You did everything right. I wanted to believe her, but part of me still wondered. The new year came. I made resolutions. Take care of myself. Exercise more. Eat better. Go to therapy. I'd started seeing a therapist in December. A woman named Dr. Helen Morris, who specialized in betrayal trauma. You're going to have trust issues, she told me in our first session. That's normal. What Derek did wasn't just an affair. It was a fundamental betrayal of everything you believed about your relationship. So how do I move past it? You don't move past it. You move through it. You feel the feelings. You process the trauma. And eventually you come out the other side changed but whole. It sounded nice in theory, but in practice it was hard. I had nightmares. Dreams where I'd find more evidence. More women. More lies. I had panic attacks. Sudden overwhelming anxiety that would hit me at random times. In the grocery store. At work. Driving the kids to school. Dr. Morris taught me breathing techniques. Grounding exercises. Ways to manage the anxiety when it hit. Slowly I started to feel more stable. I started working out. Joined a gym. Found that I liked kickboxing. Liked hitting things. Liked feeling strong. I started eating better. Cooking real meals instead of relying on takeout. I started sleeping through the night. Small victories, but they added up. Amber had her baby in March. A little girl she named Sophie. Rebecca called me from the hospital. She wants you to know. Thought you might like to see a picture. She texted me a photo. Sophie was tiny and perfect and completely innocent in all of this. Is Amber okay? I asked. She's okay. Scared, exhausted, but okay. She's keeping the baby. My mom is helping. We're figuring it out. Tell her congratulations, and that I'm thinking of her. A week later, Amber sent me a friend request on Facebook. I accepted. Her posts were mostly about Sophie. Baby milestones. Late night feedings. First smiles. She looked happy. Or at least as happy as an 18-year-old single mom could look. I sent her a message a few months after Sophie was born. How are you doing? Really? She responded immediately. Better than I thought I would be. Sophie is amazing. My mom is amazing. I'm taking online classes, and I think I'm going to be okay. How are you? Taking it day by day. The kids are doing better. I'm doing better. Can I ask you something? Of course. Why did you help me? After everything. After what I did with Derek. Why? I thought about it for a long time before responding. Because you were a kid, and he was an adult who should have known better. And because someone needed to protect you, even if it was from your own choices. Thank you. I think about that a lot. About what would have happened if you hadn't believed me. I thought about it too. Derek would have convinced her to terminate the pregnancy. Would have ghosted her after. She'd be traumatized and alone and probably blaming herself. Instead, she had Sophie. Had a future. It wasn't perfect, but it was better. Months passed. Life settled into a rhythm. I got promoted at work. My boss recognized the effort I'd been putting in. Gave me more responsibility. Better pay. The kids continued therapy. Marcus was doing well, seemed mostly unaffected by everything. Lily was struggling more. Dr. Reeves said that was normal. She was old enough to understand what had happened. Old enough to be embarrassed and angry. She feels betrayed, Dr. Reeves told me. Not just by Derek, but by the world. She thought adults were safe, that fathers protect their children, and Derek violated that trust. How do I help her? You keep being consistent. Keep being honest. Keep showing up. She needs to know that not all adults are like Derek. I tried, but it was hard when Lily wouldn't talk to me, when she'd lock herself in her room and refuse to come out. One night, I knocked on her door. Go away. Lily, please, let me in. I said go away. I sat down outside her door, leaned against the wall. I'm not going anywhere, I said. I'll sit here all night if I have to, but I'm not leaving you alone. Silence. Then the door opened a crack. Lily sat down on the other side. I could see her through the crack. I hate him, she said. I know. I hate that everyone knows. I hate that I can't just be normal. I hate that when people look at me they think that's the girl whose dad went to prison. I hate that too. Do you really? Or do you just say that? I thought carefully about my answer. I hate what this has done to you, to Marcus, to our family. I hate that Derek's choices affected you in ways you didn't deserve, but I don't regret exposing him, because he needed to face consequences. Everyone at school talks about it. They whisper when I walk by. Some of them are nice about it, like they feel sorry for me, but some of them are mean. They say things. What kind of things? That maybe I should have noticed. That maybe I could have stopped it. That maybe it's partially my fault. My heart broke. Lily, listen to me. Nothing about this is your fault. Not one single thing. You were a child. You had no idea what was happening. Even I didn't know. And I was married to him. But what if I did know? What if there were signs and I ignored them? Did you know? I don't think so. But everyone's acting like it was so obvious. Like we all should have seen it. Hindsight is 20/20. It's easy for people to judge when they weren't living it. But you didn't know. I didn't know. Derek was very good at hiding who he really was. We talked for over an hour. Eventually Lily came out of her room. We sat on the couch and watched a movie together. She fell asleep with her head on my shoulder. I didn't move. Just sat there holding her, grateful that she still wanted to be near me. Derek's first parole hearing came up that summer. 2 years into his sentence, his lawyer argued that he'd been a model inmate, completed all required programs, shown genuine remorse. Linda Harrison opposed it, said 2 years wasn't enough, that Derek needed to serve his full sentence. I submitted a letter too, explaining how his actions had affected our family, how the kids were still in therapy, how I was still rebuilding. The parole board denied his request. Derek would serve at least another year. His mother called me afterward, screaming again. You did this. You're keeping him there. You won't be satisfied until you've completely destroyed him. I didn't do anything. The parole board made their decision based on the facts. You could have spoken in his favor, told them he deserves a second chance. Why would I do that? Because he's the father of your children. Because everyone makes mistakes. Because you're being vindictive. I hung up on her, blocked her number. I was done being yelled at by people who couldn't accept reality. Around that time, I started dating again. Nothing serious at first. Just coffee dates here and there. Men from dating apps who seemed normal on paper. Most of them didn't work out. Either they had their own baggage, or they got weird when they found out about Derek. One guy actually said, "So you're the wife of that guy? The one who was all over the news." I left before the drinks even arrived. But then I met Andrew, a teacher at Lily's school. We'd chatted at parent-teacher conferences, and he'd asked me out. I said yes. We went to dinner, talked about our kids, our jobs, our lives. He was divorced too. Knew what it was like to rebuild. "Can I ask what happened?" he said over dessert. "With your marriage, I mean. You don't have to tell me if you don't want to. My husband had an affair with our teenage babysitter, got her pregnant. He's currently serving time for it." Andrew's eyes widened. Wow. I'm sorry. Don't be. It wasn't your fault. Still, that's a lot to go through. It was. But I'm here now, and I'm okay. We dated for a few months. He was kind, patient, didn't pressure me for anything I wasn't ready for. The kids met him eventually. Marcus liked him right away. Thought it was cool that he was a teacher, and knew things about dinosaurs. Lily was more cautious, but she warmed up eventually. "He's nice," she told me one night. "Not like Dad." No, I agreed. Not like Dad. But after 6 months, we decided we were better as friends. There was no drama, no big breakup, just a mutual recognition that while we liked each other, we weren't in love. "I'm glad I met you," Andrew said, when we had our final conversation. "You're an incredible person. Strong, resilient. Whoever ends up with you will be lucky." "You too," I said. "Your ex-wife is an idiot for letting you go." He laughed. We hugged, stayed friends. Derek sent letters from prison. I didn't read most of them. They went straight into a box in my closet. But one day, about 2.5 years into his sentence, curiosity got the better of me. I opened one. It was dated 6 months after his sentencing. "Melissa, I know you probably won't read this. I know you hate me. I understand why. I've had a lot of time to think in here. About what I did. About the choices I made. About the people I hurt. You're right. About all of it. I was manipulative. I was selfish. I put my own desires above everything else. I tell myself I fell in love with Amber. But the truth is, I was in love with the way she made me feel. Young. Desired. Like I still had my whole life ahead of me, instead of being stuck in a marriage that had become routine. I know that's not an excuse. There is no excuse for what I did. I think about Lily and Marcus every day. About how I failed them as a father. About how they'll grow up knowing what I did. About the fact that I won't be there for their school plays, their graduations, their important moments. I think about you too. About the years we spent together. About the life life we built. I destroyed all of that. I know I did. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I don't deserve it. I'm just asking you to know that I'm sorry. Truly sorry. For everything. Derek. I read it twice, then put it back in the box. Maybe he was sorry. Maybe he wasn't. It didn't matter anymore. Sorry doesn't undo what happened. Doesn't give me back the years I wasted. Doesn't give our kids back their innocence. Sorry is just a word. Time kept moving. Amber graduated high school that spring. Posted photos on Facebook wearing her cap and gown, holding Sophie, who was now a year old. She'd been accepted to college, community college, so she could stay close to home and help with Sophie. I want to study nursing, she told me when I sent her a congratulations message. I want to help people, want to do something good with my life. She started classes that fall. Rebecca watched Sophie during the day. It wasn't easy, but they made it work. I helped where I could, not because I wanted a relationship with Derek's child, but because Amber was trying to build a better life, and I wanted to support that. I sent money for diapers sometimes, or gave Amber hand-me-down clothes from when Marcus was a baby. Rebecca was grateful. You didn't have to do this, she said, after everything. I know, I said, but I want to. Derek's second parole hearing was scheduled for late fall, 3 years into his sentence. This time, Linda Harrison said there was a good chance he'd be released. He served 3 years, completed all programs. The board usually grants parole at this point. So he's just going to walk out, go back to his life? He'll have restrictions, probation, sex offender registration. It won't be easy for him. It still didn't feel like enough, but there was nothing I could do about it. The parole board granted his release in December, right before Christmas. Derek walked out of prison 3 days before the holiday. His parents picked him up. I only knew because Derek's father called to tell me. He's staying with us for now, he said, until he gets back on his feet. I thought you should know. Okay. He wants to see the kids for Christmas. No. Melissa, he's their father. He's a man who made choices that destroyed our family. The kids don't want to see him. I'm not gonna force them. Marcus asked about him just last week. Asked when Daddy was coming home. And what did you tell him? Silence. Exactly. You told him nothing, because you don't know what to say either. I hung up. That Christmas was different than the previous years. Better, in some ways. I'd started dating someone new. Michael. We'd met through Jennifer. He was her husband's co-worker. Recently divorced with a daughter around Lily's age. We'd been seeing each other for a few months, taking things slow. He came over Christmas Eve, helped me finish decorating, played board games with the kids. Lily liked him, said he was funny. Marcus liked him too, especially when Michael taught him how to build a model rocket. It felt good, normal, like maybe we were building something real. On Christmas night, after the kids were asleep and Michael had gone home, my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. I'm out. I know you don't want to hear from me, but I needed you to know I'm going to do better. I'm going to prove I can change. For you, for the kids, for everyone I hurt. I stared at the message for a long time. Then I blocked the number, because I didn't need Derek to prove he could change. I needed him to stay away. A few weeks later, Derek showed up at Marcus's school. He didn't try to take him, didn't approach him, just stood across the street and watched as the kids came out. A teacher noticed, recognized him from the news coverage, called the police. Derek was escorted away and given a warning. I filed for a restraining order the next day. The hearing was quick. I showed the judge the text, the school incident, the pattern of behavior. Derek's lawyer argued that Derek had a right to see his children, that I was being unreasonable. My lawyer countered with everything: the unwanted contact, the violation of boundaries, the fact that his presence traumatized the kids. The judge sided with me. Mr. Patterson, you have supervised visitation rights. You can arrange visits through the proper channels. Showing up at your son's school is not the proper channel. Do you understand? Derek nodded, left the courthouse with his parents. I didn't hear from him again for months. Life moved on. Michael and I got serious, started talking about the future, about what it might look like if we moved in together. The kids loved him, called him Mike, asked when he was coming over next. It felt right in a way my marriage to Derek never had. Easy, honest, no secrets, no lies. We got engaged that fall. Simple proposal at home with the kids present. Lily cried happy tears, said she'd been hoping he'd ask. Marcus high-fived him, said it was about time. We got married that winter. Small ceremony, close friends and family. Jennifer was my maid of honor. Derek found out through the grapevine. Sent me an email. I hope you'll be happy. I hope he treats you better than I did. I hope the kids like him. I hope one day you'll forgive me. I didn't respond, because forgiveness wasn't something Derek got to ask for. It was something I gave, if and when I was ready. And I wasn't ready. Might never be ready. And that was okay. Life with Michael was different. Better. He was present. Involved. Showed up when he said he would. He went to Marcus's basketball games. Helped Lily with her homework. Cooked dinner when I worked late. He was what Derek had pretended to be. And the kids thrived. Marcus's grades improved. Lily smiled more. Seemed lighter somehow. Dr. Reeves said it was because they finally felt safe again. That consistency and honesty had given them back something Derek had taken away. Amber finished her first year of nursing school. Posted about it on Facebook. How hard it was balancing classes and being a mom. But how worth it felt. Sophie was 3 now. Starting preschool. Smart and happy and full of energy. Sometimes I'd see her photos and feel a pang. This child was technically my kid's half-sister. Derek's daughter. But mostly I just felt glad that Amber had chosen to keep her. That Sophie existed and was loved. Derek tried one more time to be part of our lives. Showed up at Lily's middle school graduation. She was in 8th grade, about to start high school. It was a big moment. I saw him in the crowd before Lily did. My heart stopped. He looked different, thinner, older. Prison had aged him. Security saw him too. He'd violated the restraining order by being there. They removed him before before the ceremony even started. He went quietly, didn't make a scene. But Lily had seen. She came running over afterward, upset. Was that Dad? Was he here? He was. But he's gone now. Security took care of it. Why does he keep trying to see us? We don't want to see him. I don't know, honey. Maybe he thinks if he shows up enough times we'll change our minds. That's never going to happen. I know. Derek spent the night in jail, paid a fine, got another warning. His lawyer called me afterward. Mrs. Patterson, my client is desperate to see his children. He understands he made mistakes, but he's trying to make amends. Is there any way? No. If you could just consider. The answer is no. He had chances. Multiple chances. He violated the restraining order multiple times. He doesn't get to see them just because he wants to. What about supervised visitation? Through the courts. Marcus is 11. Lily is 14. They're old enough to decide if they want to see him. And they don't. If Derek wants to petition the court for supervised visits, he can. But I'm not going to force my children to spend time with someone who traumatized them. After that, Derek stopped trying. I heard through his father that he'd moved to another state. Started over somewhere no one knew his name. Got a job in construction. Good for him. I hoped he stayed there. Marcus graduated high school when he turned 18. Got accepted to college on a basketball scholarship. It was a proud moment. My baby boy, all grown up. At the graduation party, he pulled me aside. I invited Dad, he said quietly. I hope that's okay. My heart sank. Why? I don't know. Closure, maybe? I haven't seen him in years. I barely remember him. I needed to see him, to know he's real, and not just this story everyone tells. Did he respond? Yeah, he's coming. He won't sit with us or anything. He'll stay in the back. But I wanted you to know. I nodded. Tried to hide my anxiety. Derek came. Sat in the very back row. Didn't try to approach us. After the ceremony, Marcus went over to talk to him. They spoke for maybe 5 minutes. Michael stayed close to me, holding my hand. You okay? He asked. Yeah, I think so. When Marcus came back, I asked, how was it? Weird. He looks old. Tired. What did you talk about? Nothing really. He said he was proud of me. Asked about college. I told him where I was going, and he said that was great. Then we ran out of things to say. Are you glad you talked to him? Marcus thought about it. Yeah, I think I needed to see that he's just a person. Not this big scary thing in my head anymore. Just a guy who made bad choices and has to live with them. Pretty mature perspective. I learned from the best. He hugged me, and I realized that was it. That was the victory. Not Derek going to prison. Not winning the divorce. Not any of the external things. The victory was raising kids who understood nuance, who could see people as complicated, who could acknowledge pain without being consumed by it. That was what Derek couldn't take from us. Lily graduated high school 2 years later, got accepted to an art school in the city. She was talented, had always been good at drawing, but in high school she'd really blossomed. Her portfolio was full of powerful pieces, some about trauma, some about healing, some just beautiful for the sake of being beautiful. She didn't invite Derek to her graduation, didn't even consider it. When I asked if she wanted to, she said, no, he doesn't get to be part of my successes. He wasn't there for the hard parts. He doesn't get the good parts either. I understood, respected her choice. After she graduated, she came to me with something. I want to talk to Amber, she said, and Sophie, if that's okay. Why? Because Sophie is technically my half-sister, and I've been thinking about that, about how she's innocent in all of this, and maybe it would be good to know her, not as Dad's daughter, just as a person. We arranged a meeting at a coffee shop, neutral territory. Amber brought Sophie, who was now 7, a bright, chatty little girl who loved dinosaurs and art. Lily and Sophie hit it off immediately, talked about drawing, about favorite colors, about nothing and everything. Amber and I watched them together. Thank you for this, Amber said, for letting them meet. Thank Lily. It was her idea. Still, you could have said no. Yeah, but holding on to anger forever doesn't help anyone. And Sophie deserves to know her siblings if they want to know her. Marcus met Sophie a few months later. Was awkward at first. He was 19 and had no idea how to talk to a 7-year-old. But Sophie broke the ice by asking if he could teach her to play basketball. They spent an afternoon in the park. Marcus teaching Sophie to dribble. Sophie laughing every time she missed a shot. It was strange and beautiful and healing in ways I hadn't expected. Now, 10 years after everything fell apart, I'm sitting in my kitchen drinking coffee. Michael is making breakfast. The smell of bacon fills the house. The kids are both off at college. Marcus is in his junior year. Lily is in her 2nd year of art school. The house is quiet, peaceful. I still think about those days sometimes. The discovery, the confrontation, the arrest, the trial, but they don't hurt the way they used to. They're just part of my story now. Part of what made me who I am. Stronger, wiser, less willing to accept less than I deserve. Jennifer still tells me I should write a book, that my story could help other women. Maybe someday I will. Amber is a nurse now. Works at the children's hospital. Engaged to a paramedic named Ryan, who treats Sophie like his own daughter. They're getting married next summer. I'm invited to the wedding. I'm going to go. Sophie is doing well. Smart kid. Wants to be a scientist when she grows up. She knows Derek is her father. Amber told her when she was old enough to understand. But she doesn't have a relationship with him. He sends cards sometimes, Amber told me recently. On her birthday. Holidays. She reads them but doesn't respond. How does she feel about him? Curious, I think, but not ready to meet him. Maybe someday. Or maybe not. It's her choice. Derek is still out there somewhere, living in another state, working, trying to rebuild. I don't wish him harm, but I don't wish him well either. He's just gone. A chapter that's closed, and I'm okay with that. More than okay. Last month, Marcus brought his girlfriend home for Thanksgiving. A sweet girl named Vanessa who's studying engineering. Lily came home too. Brought her portfolio to show us her latest work. We sat around the table. Me, Michael, Michael, the kids, Vanessa, Michael's daughter Emma, who's become close with Lily, and I looked around at this family we'd built. Not the family I'd planned, but the family I had, and it was good, better than good. It was real, honest, built on truth instead of lies. Sometimes people ask me if I regret how I handled things, if I wish I'd done it differently. The answer is no. I did what I had to do, what felt right. I protected Amber, protected my kids, protected myself, and in the end, that's what matters. Not revenge, not punishment, just protection, just survival, just building something new from the ashes of something broken. The house is mine now, really mine. I repainted the bedroom years ago, got rid of Derek's office, turned it into a reading room with big windows and comfortable chairs. Michael added bookshelves, made it cozy. Sometimes I sit in there with a cup of tea and look out the window and think about how different my life is now. Better different, harder different in some ways, but mine, all mine. My phone buzzes. It's a text from Lily. Love you, Mom. Thanks for always protecting us, even when it was hard. I smile. Type back. Love you too, baby. Always. And I mean it, because that's what this was all about. Not destroying Derek, not getting revenge. It was about protecting the people I loved, and I'd do it all again in a heartbeat. The sun is coming up. Michael hands me a plate of eggs and bacon. What are you thinking about? He asks. Just how far we've come. He kisses the top of my head. We've come pretty far. Yeah, I say, we really have. And that's my story. That's how I went from being the perfect wife to the woman who sent her husband to prison. I don't regret it. Not even a little bit. Because sometimes the bravest thing you can do is burn down everything you built and start over. And sometimes that's exactly what you need to do to survive.